I'm Chris Pelsor, in case you don't know that. And I currently work as a solutions architect covering the Nordics and the UK, dealing with what we're really driving on the enterprise side, which is customer experience management. And I know this is all going to sound very dry and boring in the beginning, so please bear with me. So as you saw in the previous slide, it's very nice formal title, but the reality is it's more this. We have so many acronyms and so many, as you said, so many acquisitions, so many weird things now in our stack that if you're normally working with the creative tooling, it can oftentimes appear that Adobe is kind of drifting away from what they traditionally have done best. And in reality, it's more about kind of enhancing and augmenting that offering to make a lot of things much simpler. So just like you guys, this is what my days used to look like. Sitting there with Flash Builder, or FDT, or whatever you use. I'm not going to get into that war tonight, because that's not what I do. And just sitting there, pushing assets around and stuff. Now this is what my days look like. And these are actual excerpts from emails that I get every single day. And to be fair, there's just so many different things that we deal with. PDF, there's a little bit of something that people might recognize. JSON is there, so people might recognize that. JPEG, maybe some of you know that. But it really is kind of, there's this whole other side to what Adobe is doing. And it does actually relate to what you guys do, even in agencies or, in whatever type of shop you work in. So usually when people hear me say enterprise, and they don't know that I used to be a Flash developer, they're kind of like, oh, you've sold out. You've totally sold out. So I was kind of like, okay, well, what does enterprise actually mean? And I think the first definition is that really the most interesting one and the most relevant, because every single one of us working in digital, usually, unless we're doing banner ads, and even then sometimes that can be risky, it's an undertaking that is difficult by its very nature. We're dealing with arcane languages, that return maybe, HTML video. We were discussing that earlier, and it's not just that you're working with a bank. It's not just that you're working with finance companies or big, massive monoliths. It's all complicated. It's all hard stuff. Everything digital is an enterprise. It all is, no matter what type of shop you're working in, no matter who you're working for. If you're doing digital, it's an enterprise. So with all of that said, we've had some acquisitions in the last 2 years that really don't make a lot of sense to the developer on the ground. The first one that got the most jeers was Omniture. That one really made no sense to people. And then the second one, which wasn't as widely promoted, but is probably the more influential of the acquisitions, was our purchase of Day Software out of Switzerland. And what they produce is quite possibly, and I do mean this genuinely from a developer perspective, it's probably the best CMS I've ever worked with, hands down. It's got everything. So the reason we made all of these acquisitions, the reason we made all of these purchases was that there was an emerging trend in the market called customer experience management. It's either CEM or CXM, depending on which report you read. And it's this challenge of how do you as a company relate to your customers? How do you provide them with service? How do you help them achieve their goals and drive revenue for you? And so, there's a ton of different ways that we interact with companies right now. My favorite way of interacting with NSB is over Twitter. I'm regularly engaging with NSB these days over Twitter. And so, so that's the social element, and I'm doing it on my cell phone. And then they point me to their website. Maybe there's been an email exchange. So there's all these different ways that we communicate, that I'm communicating with NSB, and there's all of these different ways that you interact with that organization. But then on the business side, it's business. You have to figure out what your sales are. Are you actually driving growth? Are you communicating the best message the best way possible? That's marketing. Customer support. The guy on the other end of Twitter who's dealing with my non-stop complaints about the train lines being down. You know, why did we shut down the train line all summer if the signals still don't work? That kind of stuff. So there are these two big challenges, because you'll have the customer support guy having one conversation with you, and that's completely ignored or not known by, say, marketing. So marketing may not actually realize there's a problem because they don't actually have that information that the call center has. So then it ends up looking like this mess. And so how do you manage that? How do you manage that kind of communication across the different touch points? And so that's where we bring in our platform. So we present it as the customer experience management platform, but on the technical side, how it relates to you as a developer, it's called ADEP, the Adobe Digital Enterprise Platform. So let's see, that's the next slide here, I think. Nope, it's not, but we'll talk about this one. So what we do is we're saying there's going to be all of these different ways that you need to interact with your customers. How can you create experiences for your customers that really genuinely add value? I mean, how many people here have built the pointless microsite for an advertising campaign? Everyone's done something like it, or the banner ad, But it doesn't really reinforce the brand. It doesn't really give any extra value to the organization or you as the customer who uses a product or service of that company. So what we're saying is, why not actually leverage all of this information that you have with the technologies that you're already using on the creative side to actually create something of meaningful value for your customers? So there are 4 places that we do this. One is in process. I'm not going to go into that, even though it's really cool technology, where essentially within Lifecycle, we have the ability to take an input from any source. It can be someone dropping a file in a folder on a server. It can be an email coming into an email account. It can be a call center, tripping off a process. And then that will cause a whole bunch of other things to happen within your system. And the real power in that is that you can automate a lot of things that normally companies would have to do by hand. But that's not really relevant to what we're talking about here. The second is social. I'll be completely honest with you, our current social story is pretty weak. Management types inside Adobe like to think that because we have an out-of-the-box wiki and blog, we're social. Not really, but it's getting there. And when we talk a bit more about Day, we actually have some fun stuff going on in there that actually does allow you to be more social within that relationship. Content and applications, that's the stuff, if you're a Flash developer, an HTML developer, that's really the thing that you're caring about. Like, how do I actually build the stuff easily and quickly for as many devices as possible? Desktop, whatever. I need to do it quickly, cheaply, make it work. The fourth one is probably the most controversial for everyone because all of us here hate analytics. And actually, analytics is a really, really important aspect of the digital business. And I think the biggest misconception from the developer perspective is in part due to a lack of knowledge about what analytics actually is and what it actually does. For me, it used to fall under that same umbrella as usability. If we put something on a screen and torture people for 8 hours over 3 days, we'll somehow ilk out some greater knowledge about our website and then everything will be fixed and perfect, when in reality that's not what happens. Analytics and optimization through the online marketing suite, formerly known as Omniture, allows you to not only see, we're making ice, not only see how people are using the site and the experience. We've done that! Everyone take a second. Okay. All right. But so with the analytics and optimization side, what that allows us to do is not only be able to see how people are using the site or the application, but actually also be able to make changes in an automated fashion. So that instead of, say, I'll go a bit into this when I show the Day stuff. Instead of just saying, okay, well, who are we targeting with this content exactly, and having those long, drawn-out discussions, you can actually create 2 parallel tracks of content and have that controlled in an automated fashion based on whether the user's logged in or maybe the user's coming in through Facebook and you have some information about that. You can actually customize the content in an automated fashion. So you're not sitting there going like, all right, now I got to build all this other stuff. So the way it works out is we have the Creative Suite, which is what you guys are working with on your day-to-day. We have the Online Marketing Suite, which is all of the Omniture stuff, and there's a load of stuff in there that's really cool that I have no idea what it does. I've just watched the Omniture guys use it, and it is really, really cool, but you pretty much have, it's black science, really. It's like creepy stuff and people doing cold fusion. Not literally the language cold fusion, but actually like making things happen. And then we have the ADEP platform in the middle. And ADEP covers a whole bunch of things. I'm only going to go into a few of them today, but like digital asset management, we have some very, very powerful technologies on the back end that allow for you to not only version assets as you create them, but also put in place editorial flows. So how many people here have done like the email ping pong of assets back and forth? How many people have a month or maybe even a couple of days after a site's gone live been asked to go back to an old version of an image, and then you're actually sitting there reading through all the emails going, did you mean this one? And then it gets worse when you've actually bounced back and forth an image 5 times in a day. It's like, okay, did you mean the one at 10:08 or did you mean one at 11:15? So digital asset management allows you to have much greater control over that kind of back and forth. Collaboration, that's like lifecycle collaboration services. We have another element to the platform called Connect, but that's more for web conferences. Maybe you guys have done a Connect session with Adobe. If we're having like a conference topic, or maybe an online seminar talking about technology, maybe you've used Connect. But collaboration services is a hosted service as opposed to these other technologies which you install on site. Web experience management, which is the WEM, that's DAY, that's CQ, that's your content management solution. RIA, that's obviously Flex and Flash. Data services, how many people here have actually played with data services? Either through Blaze DS, LCDS? No? It's a shame because it's really, really, really fun. Document generation, yes. Who wants to generate some PDFs? We're not going to talk about that. Forms, again, PDF generation. BPM is business process management. That's the process thing that I was talking about. Again, that's kind of outside the mandate of what we're talking about here. So the thinking is that, you know, a lot of people like to tell us that we have a problem with HTML5, when in reality, that's them telling us that we have the problem with it, not the other way around. The reality is that we have a very long tradition of actually supporting HTML through Dreamweaver, and then with the acquisition of Day, we've just kind of broadened that support for HTML. For us, it's not really an issue. If you look inside of the Air runtimes, you know, Stage WebView supports WebKit. So if you're writing against WebKit, you have HTML support there as well. PDF, what to say about it? It's actually, I can't lie, it's a pretty cool technology. The newer version of PDF, if you're writing what's called PDFX or PDF Extended, you can actually embed Flex applications inside your PDF and then have it call out to whatever data source you want. So you can actually have live data inside of a document, which is pretty neat. You can also start to layer in analytics as well. So if you're producing forms, say for government, and you're not getting good returns, or you're getting, you know, bad information in the form that you're constantly having to call incorrect, you can actually use analytics to see where people are getting tripped up on it. Then of course we have Air and Flash. That's what we're here for. You know, our commitment remains very, very solid. It just has become a much more complex landscape to support as businesses have demanded more. So it's, I mean, I remember back in Flash 4 and we just got beyond excited because we could finally load in, you know, data. And now everyone's like, why don't I have Keylock for gaming? And why don't I have this? And why don't I have that? And it's a good position to be in, to have people who want to use the technology that badly to do amazing things, but it's a lot of mouths to feed. So probably, one of the things that we're discovering is because we're not actually reaching out in the most efficient way possible to people who have been using our creative tooling. I mean, we've put in place support so that you can use all of these back-end technologies quite easily with your creative tooling like Flash, Flash Builder, and whatnot. But we haven't done a good job of trying to help people figure out where they fit within that puzzle. So within digital agencies, their primary roles are digital experience development and management, digital brand fortification, and their tasks are everything from full websites to microsites, all of the stuff that we've all been doing here. So within that, the tooling is obviously Creative Suite, but then we have two other things that are powered by the stack. One is our integrated content review solution, and what this does is it introduces a collection of different plugins to your creative tooling like Photoshop. I think we have Flash support today. If not, it's coming very soon. And what that allows you to do is actually we'll bring up a task list that someone who's managing the whole workflow says, okay, these are the assets that need to be produced, or these are the tasks that need to be done. And then it comes straight into your workflow. And using Bridge and digital asset management, you have access to a unified repository in one place of those images that's versioned and controlled so that you're not having to play that email ping pong. The other one, the Web Experience Management Solution, that is your CMS. That is how you're getting content out to people. But one of the neat things that's under the Web Experience Management Solution, or built into it, is a technology called CRX. And I can't remember what it stands for. It's content something extreme. Seriously, like I said, it's acronym soup. How many acronyms do you want me to keep track of? The thing with CRX is that it's built on Sling and Jackrabbit, which are two open source projects that are NoSQL initiatives, so that you don't actually need to worry about all of the hullabaloo of databases to have your information stored. And you can just map up directly to these things either through HTML. We have support for mapping up to them in Flash Builder, which I'll show you in a second. And I believe today we also have support for Java out of the box and iOS out of the box. I believe. Don't quote me on that. You'll have to delete that from your video later. I don't know. The next one is Design Studios, and this is a slightly different beast. They're not necessarily worried as much about a lot of the digital things that we deal with. They're dealing more with print and physical design and brand development. So for them, it's a lot of production. A lot of production. So obviously Creative Suite and the integrated content review, that's going to be the things that work best in that solution. Analytics houses, yes. These are the guys who do the number crunching that annoys us. These will obviously just be focused on Omniture, the analytics, what's coming in and out. But within the CQ solution, the day stuff, we have very, very easy integration with Site Catalyst, which is the tracking technology, and Test and Target, which allows you to do what I was talking about before, where maybe you're not quite certain what content is working, so you'll put it up as either an A/B test or a multivariate test based on a bunch of parameters about the person viewing the content. And then you can actually see which one is being more successful. Has anyone here actually ever had to integrate analytics into a site? Isn't that fun? It's really easy with the Omniture stuff, actually. And it is very, very powerful. But I'll get the Omniture guy to come up here and give you guys the spiel on that one. Social media houses. So they do fit into this puzzle, whether we like it or not. I have my own opinions about social media houses, and I'm not going to go into them because of being recorded. But they, in many ways, are doing a lot of the same stuff that analytics houses are doing. They're looking at numbers. Currently, there aren't that many great solutions out there that are tracking social engagement through Twitter and Facebook and all of these other channels. We actually have a piece of the online marketing suite called Social Catalyst, where you can actually track from when someone starts an interaction in Facebook all the way through to an engagement through the website. So it's, I don't know how they did it, but they've made it work, and it's pretty killer stuff. And also the social media houses, if they're doing like the Facebook content, then you'll oftentimes see them mucking around in CS. Full service shops, obviously it's everything. They're doing every task under the sun. You know, those are going to be like your Crayunas, your Making Waves, those kinds of shops. They tend to actually focus a bit more on usability research and analytics tracking than actually kind of producing killer content. Oftentimes it's death by 1,000 cuts when trying to get something innovative out through these places. And I'm only speaking from my own experience. I'm not judging.
Seems to be one that.
So I thought what might be better than just going on and talking about the sales spiel is actually showing a bit of the stack. So I'm actually going to install before your very eyes the experience services. Let's see. Are you ready for it?
Well, can you get it on that screen?
No. Well, it might pop up on my screen, so I'll have to be fast. But so here's the jar file, which will install the complete stack. Where are we popping up? Hold on, wait, here we go. So I'm now installing a complete server stack here.
Which you can get for free?
No. When it came out, we had a free trial that was up. It has since come down for reasons I don't know. So I can't say why it's not available. But it was, I mean, with the keys and stuff, it was only a 60-day trial anyway. But it's a full functionality. You would be able to do everything with it that you would normally be able to do. I think there was probably some licensing issue involved, so someone got unhappy and we had to pull it down. But there are, but I should backtrack a bit. There are elements of this platform that you can get for free to play with. For example, if you go to day.com, you will see that you can actually download CRX, which is the underpinnings to everything, and you can download it and play with it for free. And I think it's a 1-year trial, so you can play with it for quite a while. It's not like other demoware that you install and then you're like, great, I've installed it and I'm busy now, and then by the time you go back to it 30 days later, it's shut off. All right, so this is really high security, guys. Here, I'll let you try to guess. So here it is. Here's the platform. Now, in my role, we're given what's called a solutions quick start, which is everything in one. But when you are actually talking with your customers, they will buy pieces of it. So the way the stack is broken out is you have document services, which actually all still runs J2EE, and that's like your PDF generation, that's forms, the really sexy stuff that you do with government. And then the other side, the stuff that you would be more likely to be touching would be the experience server, and this has all of that in there. So on the top part here, this is the day stuff right here. So you got websites, you've got your DAM, the digital assets. You can do campaign management in here, so you can actually coordinate when things go live, when things get rolled out, everything from press releases to advertising campaigns, all of that. You can moderate communities within here, so if you have people commenting on content, you can actually say, I would actually prefer to moderate it a bit before people just go and trash my brand. And then the other things, tagging is actually one of the things that creates a bit of confusion with our customers is that we have very rudimentary analytics that ships with CQ and very rudimentary targeting. So you can actually do some of the things at a very lightweight level. It won't give you the full reach like you would have with Omniture, but if you're not sure where you want to start, or if you're using a different analytics solution, you can start with that or integrate. If you want to use Google Analytics, go right ahead. It's no problem. So then we also have workflows up in the corner here. And that's how you go about setting up your approval processes. When I was talking about workflows and you were saying the image back and forth in an email ping pong, That's where you'd set up those things. Customer communication solution, that is absolutely of no interest to you guys at all, unless you really, really, really want to dig into doing financial statements with dynamic graphing in PDF. Integrated content review, I don't have it set up today, so I'm not going to go too much into that. And then we have the core down here. So we have CRXDE Lite, which is a web-based development environment. So if you want to actually develop your templates, or if you need to make a quick fix, you can do that right through a tool that we have online, or you can download an Eclipse-based version of the tooling. I think we also have a plugin for that. Don't quote me. The other thing that I want to talk a bit about are the packages. And remember earlier I had said that while our out-of-the-box social story isn't that great, we have other ways of adding in support for Facebook and for Twitter. You can get two different packages. One is the Twitter package, and what that allows your organization to do is engage over Twitter in a way that they can control. So you can actually write a tweet, and then it gets submitted to a workflow that someone in the editorial process can say, push this out, or bounce it back to the person and tell them to fix it because it's not what we actually want to be conveying. Or you can also install the Facebook page package, which allows you to design and manage your Facebook page for your company or project within this tooling. And again, because it's all powered by CRX, you have all of the other things like versioning, tracking, workflow control. So I'm going to go up. We're going to just take a quick look at what a CQ website looks like. So you'll see here I've got two different sites. I've got a demo site and a mobile site. Within CQ, you can actually also buy an additional package called Mobile, which will enhance and improve that whole workflow of developing for mobile devices. But we'll just go into the demo site right here. Let's see. So I'll open up the English page here. I forgot to pre-compile everything. I do bad at that now.
Why was it first access?
Sorry?
Does it compile now?
Yeah, so usually all of these pages are written in JSP, but because of CRX and the Sling layer, you can actually use a variety of different languages to build your templates. So if you're a Scala freak, go ahead and code your website template in Scala. There. Mr. Holiday, you're late. Where's your note? My machine's being a bit flaky today. I don't think it likes the amount of PowerPoint I've been doing. Our laptop. There we go. Oh, it's firing up the quick start. Cool. So now I've got this right here. And here's my front page to my website. If I want to go and I can control some properties. So you remember we were discussing what a pain in the ass it was earlier to add analytics. So if you're using Omniture Analytics, you can just tick that you have Site Catalyst, enter the company username and password, and that's it. Everything is then wired in automatically, which is really, really nice. If you've never done analytics integration, I highly recommend it. It's a delightful endeavor. Not really. But the other cool thing that a lot of people don't know is that we also have Site Catalyst integration in Flash and Flash Builder. So if you wanted to do like test and target styled controlled content inside of Flash, you would actually just be able to drop one of these test and target components right into your Flash work, point it at the different content that you want to have it loaded and control, and then that analytics information is sent straight into test and target, and you can find out what's working and what isn't. And then if you really start to play with it a lot, you can learn how to do some pretty neat things with it. So you can even start to get down to tracking people's preferences over types of behaviors and whatnot, like types of tweens and things. Let's see here. Why are my components coming? Let's see. There we go. Oops. So one of the neat things is that you're actually viewing a live site, so you sort of have to be careful when you click on links because it will actually take you to that page. So you'll see that I've got this ring coming up, and then that means I can go right in and start editing the text right in line. We also have other packages for allowing you to do things like rich text formatting and whatnot. Oh good, there's my components. All right. So now let's say I wanted to just go and drop in the sitemap right there, and just drop it in, and there's my sitemap. It just does that automatically. Each of these different items here in the sidekick, these are all packages. So if you wanted to start wrapping functionality for the website, you could actually write the code, compile the Swift, for example, wrap it as a package, and then that can be managed and controlled in the deployment environment with the versioning and everything. Let's see. What else is there? Who dared to order food while I was presenting? Let's see here. So, let's see. There we go. So there I've dropped ratings on there. How many people have had to deal with integrating things like ratings systems and going and writing the PHP scripts or whatever, and then, you know, the database management and everything? I'm sure one of you has to have had to do this in the past. Okay, at least one. So with the package we have here, for example, you just drag it on there, drop it, and then again with the CRX repository, it manages all of that. I'm not going to go too much into all of the little things that we have there, but it's very, very, very powerful. If I wanted to add a forum, so now I have a forum inside here, just drag and drop like that. Yeah, so that's that. But here's the thing, right? That's probably not really very interesting to Flash developers, I would imagine. Not so much. Let's see here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and fire up Flash Builder. Ah! Okay. Anyone know how I can find... Where did it go here?
Oh, what screen?
Yeah, I've got that fucking multi-screen shit going on. Annoying as hell, I should shut it off.
Did I fix that in 6.7? Supposedly.
No, it's OS X with the fucking shit. I hope this is going online. My manager will love
beep, 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 right?
Beep, beep. Jesus, where did it go? Hold on, I know how to fix this. Then we go like that. There we go. Cool. So by the way, you guys know, right, that have you seen some of the iPad apps that we've written for doing creative stuff like creating color palettes and whatnot? Have you seen those? You do know that we also have an API, so you can write your own Photoshop tooling in either Objective-C or Air. And you can control your Photoshop instance from that application.
From Air.
From Air. Yep. That's pretty cool. So I was playing around a bit with it. Didn't get very far because I was also mucking around with CRX at the same time. So going back to what I was talking about, right? So we have all of that information that people have gone and made web pages with, you know, different text content, different images, all of that stuff, right? And that's nice and all for a CMS kind of web page. But let's say I've also got a designer who's creating visual assets that I want to be able to reuse in, say, an Air application for iOS. How hard is that going to be for me to work with? How hard is it going to be for me to do? So one of the neat things we have, oh, you didn't see that code base. Let's see here. Where is it? Oh. Yeah, anyway, now you all know. Let's say this. There we go. So one of the things that we have inside of the whole CRX stack, right? We also have a version of data services. So you know how I was talking before about lifecycle data services and how awesome that is, right? But but usually it needs to be installed on a J2E stack with redundancy and all that stuff, so it's not really something that you're going to be able to use relatively easily. So what we've done is we've actually baked a version of data services that exists within CRX that gives you a lot of that same power, but it's built into the whole thing. So what we do is, within this project right here, where is it? There it is. So in this project here, right, I've got, where did it go? There it is. There we go. Oh, this isn't the project, it was CRX query that I wanted. There we go. So this is an XML, and then I'm going to go and open my data model. There we go. So now you'll see over here I've got some stuff here under Experience Server, what I was talking about before. I love that ice machine. It's really awesome. Cool. So what this Experience Server is, that's just the CRX repository where I was doing all of that content management before. And I can have that exposed in here. So, okay, great. So I've got some data that I want to use. Let's say I want to use that one. So now I'm just creating this service based on the content in my NoSQL. Oh, okay, I already got it there. Awesome. Cool, so I've got that there. And then when I go back over here, I can just go in. Let's see here. Oh, I'm doing some JSON stuff. That's the other way you can access this stuff, is you can either use the modeler, or you can just write straight JSON and make queries against the CRX repository directly, if that's your flavor of doing things. Let's see here. I'll show you. So it's really just as simple as pointing at the server and then saying query it with JSON, and then you're good to go. So I'll actually show it. Let's see if this will work here. I was working on this at 3 in the morning, so it may or may not work. We'll give it a shot. Where did it go? It came up over here. Cool. There we go. So this is just, there we go. So now I've got a bunch of different assets here. Cool. So I'm actually going in and using JSON as well as modeler. You can use either or to pull paths to information out, or you can pull the information out directly right into your Flash app. And so that gives you a whole other level of flexibility in terms of how you handle content, because that's always the biggest problem, is that usually you're stuck writing some sort of custom CMS nonsense from scratch. And there's no way for the organization that's paying you to do this to kind of manage that workflow and actually figure out if there's been value gained in their organization. This is obviously just a very, very simple demo of that, but nonetheless, you're able to have that access to that information. You can do CRUD actions on them. Everyone knows CRUD, right? Yes, enterprise terms. That's like create, now I can't even remember. Create, sorry?
Read?
Yeah, create, read, something, and delete.
Update.
Update. See, there we go. Why didn't you say something before? Everyone here looking vacantly, and then he's like, I don't know what CRUD is. So, yeah, so this is just kind of a really quick overview. I don't want to have people fall asleep because that's always a bad presentation tactic. But I think the big takeaway is, we're working really hard supporting this side of the business in the developer community, and we want to reach out more. So if you do have stuff going on that you think this would fit in, let us know. Let me know. I'm pretty easy to find. And we'll do our best to try and help and see what we can do to make it easier and better for you guys to integrate these features and this functionality in your stuff. Are there any questions? No. Anyway, I'll be around for a bit, so if afterwards you guys want to ask a question in private, then you're more than welcome to. Thanks for your time, guys.